Tumblr holds so many fond memories for me, from self-expression, photography, music, fashion, art, and spicy content.
Nice.
Tumblr was and still is a place for so many online communities. Today we're going to navigate the nostalgia of different Tumblr eras, its classic aesthetics, and how it lost a huge user base by getting rid of not safe for work content. Welcome to Retrovision, where I deep dive into the depths of internet lore and dig out forgotten memories of the internet's many past lives.
Future history has now been altered, and this is the proof.
Tumblr came into existence on the World Wide Web in 2007, positioning itself to young adult and tween audiences for the purpose of blogging, sharing images and GIFs. Different communities initially flocked to Tumblr, like fashion bloggers, true crime bloggers, photographers, book lovers, and of course, One Direction stans. And yes, that also includes the One Direction fandom that shipped the Harry Styles and Louis Tomlinson dating rumours.
What did he say?
But just a few years later, communities for My Little Pony, anime, Harry Potter, and K-pop were all growing their own communities on the site. In fact, I still use Tumblr now to shop for Sims 4 custom content. By 2011, Tumblr had over 10 billion blog posts, and by 2014, it had 18.2 million users. In the early 2010s, it was a serious contender for competing against big social media sites of the time like Facebook and MySpace. Tumblr trends were awash with cringe like Small Bean, Pupper, and Raw XD at every click.
Fashion!
I am not joking when I tell you that Tumblr was 1000% the OG brat era that Charlie XCX envisioned. In the early years, the blogging site was basically a haven for fashion posts, closely entwined with music, heavily influenced by indie and grunge aesthetics. Oh, and not forgetting the emo and scene kids, who were another very popular subculture of fashion in the early Tumblr days. I just hope that your hair recovered from all the hairspray and backcombing.
Holy look at all this damage!
But more on that later. Tumblr was the mecca for creatives who dressed alternatively and enjoyed taking artsy pictures. In fact, I remember a website, lookbook.nu, where Tumblr fashion girlies were encouraged to post their outfit of the day pics and share onto Tumblr directly. The idea was to inspire others and link to where other users could buy the same or similar garms, with creative pics focusing on certain close-up aesthetic details like jewelry or shoes. They were kind of like the first wave of proper influencers, I suppose. And you could say that it was like a fashion-specific Pinterest before Pinterest existed, but had more blog-like elements like upvoting and commenting. But it was massively entwined with selling an idea of a specific lifestyle, with certain titles like Art Student Outfit of the Day, or You'll Go and I'll Be Okay, or like some wines, Our Love Could Neither Mature Nor Travel.
What?
But the music fashion girlies on Tumblr ranged in inspiration by artists like Lana Del Rey's Americana grunge style to indie punk ankle boots with denim shorts, while probably also quoting obscure lyrics from the 1975 Oh Lord. Pastel hair colours, fishnets and satisfying flat lay outfit pics were everywhere by 2014. And even to this day, a lot of nostalgic recent Tumblr posts include hashtags like I miss 2014. Same girl. This was also peak indie era, with grainy photography that always featured heavy background broker, usually a wet industrial road with traffic lights shining off the rain. But the huge rise of indie music really carried this era, and it wouldn't be right to talk about Tumblr and music without a shout out to some of the Tumblr musical greats. Halsey had a massive Tumblr presence and was dubbed the Queen of Tumblr by Vice in 2015. It also looks like she still has an active Tumblr account called Tired and Lonely Muse. Other key artists to mention are Arctic Monkeys, Joy Division, The Smiths, Florence and the Machine, Kurt Cobain, the 1975, the XX. They were all hugely influential within the Tumblr aesthetic. Arguably, none quite as influential as Lana Del Rey though. She really was the Tumblr girl. She gave us that grainy vintage video games vibe that Tumblr users absolutely ran with.
That looks nice.
It feels like Tumblr is so back, but also so far away. Which isn't surprising given that 2014 was 10 years ago now, but there's still nothing quite as iconic as the Tumblr aesthetics. I really believe that Tumblr walked so that platforms like TikTok could run when it comes to self-expression. There were iconic moments like the mustache finger tattoo.
Yeah, boy.
If you're someone who had one of these done, please let me know in the comments if it's holding up and what your thoughts are on it now. Or what about everything mustache? Shout out to Claire's for really leaning into this micro trend. I'm going to take you through some of the core 2010s Tumblr aesthetics, starting with emo and scene. Now, some people might categorize these separately, but I grouped them together because I feel like they crossed paths in fashion evolution. Emo developed as a subculture in the mid-90s, but has since developed into a very different style that we associate with emo today. And this handy vintage cutout from 17 mag highlights some of the original lifestyle that was emo. Things like knit jumpers paired with cuff jeans and Converse. But with the evolution of the music genre, bands like Paramore, Panic at the Disco, Fall Out Boy, and My Chemical Romance became popular. And the fashion statements became more influenced from goth and punk styles. Think ripped skinny jeans, checkerboard Vans, studded wristbands, striped tights on knee-high socks, all topped off with a heavily backcombed hair with a signature side fringe. Scene kids mostly occupied MySpace in the day, but their fashion was highly inspired by emo, and is pretty much the same, I'd say, beside pastel bright hair, layered chunky, colourful accessories, and almost rave aesthetic elements.
Want to get a cup of coffee?
So we've all seen the hipster barista meme by now. But what really defined this era was handlebar mustaches, thick-rimmed nerdy glasses, and listening to music before it was popular, or actually enjoying or knowing anything before it hit the mainstream. And there's tons of subgenres of hipster, from bearded, heavily tattooed men wearing braces to the twee aspiring Zooey Deschanel types, very demure, very twee. Some staple aesthetics for hipsters also included Polaroid pictures, Peter Pan collars, vintage thrifting, tea dresses, and floral prints, or anything Alexa Chung would wear, with music ranging from Lana Del Rey, Two Door Cinema Club, Joy Division, and Marina and the Diamonds, just to name a few. The typical books that were huge at the time included Perks of Being a Wallflower and The Fault in Our Stars, and basically any book by John Green. I'd say that 500 Days of Summer perfectly encapsulates the vibe of Tumblr hipsters. If you've watched Skins through season 1 to 4, then you know exactly what indie grunge is. Effie was basically the epitome of the subculture, smoking a ciggy, dark smudged eye makeup, and as soon as this gif showed up, it was almost criminal not to reblog it. Indie grunge is different from the grunge from the 90s, with the aesthetic usually including Doc Martens, chokers, heavy accessories, denim jackets, and fishnets. It's quite closely inspired by goth, emo, and OG 90s grunge fashion. It was a big joke at the time that being antisocial and shopping at American Apparel or All Saints was Tumblr indie grunge core. But a lot of what I saw at the time was aesthetically pleasing, blurry photos of people being social and mostly being drunk and smoking. In fact, it's very Brat, very Julia, and absolutely does not surprise me that Charlie XCX has managed to keep this era alive and then modernize it. And there's actually a popular tag on Tumblr of 2024 is the new 2014, and I'm a bit obsessed with this because it just seems like people are trying to hold on to that little bit of nostalgia of late teen, early adulthood where life just seemed a lot more simple. And we are absolutely seeing a resurgence of the fashion trends of the Tumblr aesthetic now. And a decade later, we find ourselves talking about My Healy, Lorde, and Lana Del Rey again and loving the indie sleaze fashion.
No! God, please, no! No!
Tumblr wasn't just a place to explore fashion and expressing yourself, it's also where a lot of people explored their sexuality too. For most people who were on Tumblr, it was quite common to come across risque gifs of quite artistically done heavy petting, shall we say. Like a simple 3-frame GIF, usually edited in the trademark Tumblr grain and sepia filter. Tumblr corn has a very specific style, but obviously where there's little regulation, there's people pushing boundaries with what they post. And people on the other end who didn't want to see adult content or were in no way old enough to be exposed to it had no choice due to how the Tumblr dashboard worked. Tumblr was removed from the iOS App Store in 2018 because CP was detected to be accessible. As a result, a month later, Tumblr updated their community guidelines to ban adult content. And these guidelines were really confusing and weird and specific about female presenting nipples, which obviously became a whole meme. Obviously, removing inappropriate content was a great move for Tumblr, but Tumblr users dropped off by around 30% as a result of these community guideline changes. And those who made spicy art and photography suddenly had no home for their craft. A filter was developed to flag explicit content automatically, which, as you can probably imagine, went absolutely ridiculously bad. So much so that hashtag #TooSexyForTumblr trended on the site, showing bizarre things that were being flagged. Like this unassuming yellow bear. No knees on Tumblr, please. And even the peanut butter baby wasn't safe. But then The unimaginable happened. Tumblr brought back corn. Justice for the female presenting nipples. In September 2022, Tumblr modified their community guidelines again, this time specifying that text, images, and videos that contain nudity, offensive language, sexual themes, or mature subject matter is allowed to be posted, but that visual depictions of sexually explicit acts or content with an overt focus on genitalia are not permitted on the platform. People have speculated that this could have happened after Elon Musk bought Twitter to attract now X users back onto Tumblr. And although Tumblr isn't in its heyday of the 2010s, up to 12 million blogs are posted every day on Tumblr right now. I know that 2024 is the new 2014 and all, but I don't think Tumblr will ever recreate its huge cultural impact of the 2010s, which is a shame because I think we're all longing for that comfortable nostalgic hit. But I guess Tumblr serves as a testament that it is true that fashion and trends always do come back around. And if you wait long enough, so does the freedom of female presenting nipples. Please let me know in the comments what community of Tumblr you were part of. How did your mustache finger tattoo hold up? Did your hair ever recover from the backcombing and hairspray? And remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. What forgotten internet history should we cover next on Retrovision? Let me know down below.